Hello, I'm Brianna Wunderlin, and I want to welcome you to the Spark Your Divine Feminine Power Through Pleasure, where we bring together some of the world's teachers to fire up our divine power, pleasure, and feminine energy. This creational energy powers the world, and we want you to find its power within and use it to elevate your everyday experience of life to new heights and new purpose. I'm here with Ilarion Merculieff. He is one of the last generation of Aleuts of the Alaskan Islands to be fully raised in a traditional way. He was given the name Kuyux, a name that means extension, like an arm extending from a body. And it's part of his destiny to serve as a bridge and a messenger between his culture and our culture. His work now extends internationally as he facilitates the use of traditional ways of dialogue, decision-making, and consensus building, and talks about Indigenous elder wisdom for modern times, which he'll be sharing some of that with us. He helps secure recognition of the Alaskan Native subsistence fishing rights to develop culturally based adaptation strategies for the impact of climate change. Ilarion Merculieff is an Indigenous messenger and teacher. He recently chaired the Indigenous Knowledge Sessions at the Global Summit of Indigenous Peoples on Climate Change, attended by Indigenous representatives from 80 nations. He was featured in National Wildlife Magazine as an American hero, having called national and international attention to major adverse changes in the Bering Sea ecosystem. His book is called Wisdom Keeper, One Man's Journey to Honor the Untold Story of the Onondaga People. It's about wisdom of the elders through the lens of his life. And he is going to be talking to us, among other things, about the womb at the center of the universe, teachings on women's wisdom, and also his own stories from his life and Indigenous culture. So just starting there, I would love you to talk a little bit about your culture as an Onondaga.
Okay, Brianna, thanks for the intro. Yeah, Angwan, Kamagala Kamna, Kamagala Kasuda, Tingananganwe, Nanganasakta Kuyach, I'm a conscious Sakta Ilarion Merculieff, Kawalagananganwe. I said Angwan, which means hello, my other self. This is the way we greet each other amongst my people every day. And I said the afternoon tastes good. And that's also another way that we express our, instead of saying good afternoon, we say the afternoon tastes good. And that my traditional name is Kuyach, which means, like you explained, it's like an arm extending out from the body, a carrier of ancient knowledge into modern times, a messenger. That this is a name given to one person in each lifetime amongst my people. And the last Kuyuk gave me his name. And I come from the people of the stellar sea line. We have a reciprocal relationship, an intimate relationship with stellar sea line. And we have been out in the Bering Sea for over 10,000 years, and we're still there. It's just a blessing to be born an Onondaga. And so just by way of introduction, my people, the Onondaga people, were very spiritual and spiritually grounded for the thousands of years that they've been out in the Bering Sea. We can trace our ancestry back to Egypt. And we went from Egypt to Outer Mongolia to Siberia to Kamchatka and across by skin boat, not across the Bering Land Bridge, as the anthropologists say. We crossed by boat. And we developed a very spiritual kind of technology. We had a basic form of brain surgery. We have names for every part of the human body. We are one of few cultures in the world that had a word for billion in our own language prior to the introduction of Western science. And I like to ask the question, why would anyone know the word billion? Because we can't count a billion anything. And so I'll leave you with that one as a question. Anyway, we also developed the most densely populated linear mile of shoreline in North America, the whole North American continent. And we did that in a place that is very hard to eke out a living. And the question is, how did we do that? And my people were people, we call ourselves real human beings. It's not that there's not real human beings, but we are called real human beings. And many of the cultures in Alaska, be it Yupik, Nupiat, Dene, Tlingit, Unangan, it all means the human being or the real human being. It's a message from our ancestors to the present moment that I'll explain later. Anyway, so we were the only Alaska Native group in all of Alaska that didn't have footwear even in the wintertime.
Oh my gosh.
Yep. And we didn't have any food storage technologies except for wind blowing, wind drying. And, how can you survive when you don't have any food storage technologies? And that's a question that many people ask me. And I say, the answer I give is that our people, as real human beings, were present in the moment and in the heart. And they trusted implicitly, not with the mind, but with your entire makeup of the human being, trusted and implanted that trust in every cell of the human body, in life, in ourselves, in the universe, in the great spirit that lives in all things. We trusted implicitly and completely, so that, one of my elders on St. Paul would say, look at the birds, they don't worry about where they're going to get the food the next day. And when you think about it, that's true. We human beings are the only ones that worry, and we're worrying because we've got guilt, shame, remorse, anger, rage, jealousy, all these things from the past, or fear, which is projection of the future, or something that hasn't happened yet. Every place except the proverbial now. And so I think it was Deepak Chopra that said that the point of power is in the present moment. And someone else said, God can only be found in the silence between one's thoughts. This is an expression of that through my people. So that's the inspiration that I have for the work that I do now. Anyway, I've had a very traditional upbringing, as you said. I had to live with my grandfather for 2 years at age 4. And I went to church with him. I went to work with him. I went praying in the Bering Sea with him. I went hunting with him. He was just immersed in knowing each other. And he taught me probably the most profound thing about why and how our people survived and thrived in the Bering Sea for 10,000 years. We would go down to the Bering Sea, take our shirts off and spray ourselves with salt water and pray towards the east. And then that night we might go to the Russian Orthodox Church, because you didn't see any difference in where one got one's spirituality. It's more the person than the place or what you are part of. And we would, after one day after praying, then we went out and walked on the land. And the Pribilof Islands, where I'm born, is not part of the Aleutian chain. It's a group of 5 islands in the middle of the Bering Sea. In my island, we had 450 people on an island that's 12 miles long and 5 miles wide.
Wow.
But it had over 1 million fur seals, northern fur seals, and 2.5 million seabirds, 1,000 reindeer, and 450 Unangan people. It was a magical place for a kid to be born. And so um, the magic I'll hope to express a little bit as we go on. But the entire village raised me. I had to spend equal time with the men, equal time with the women, equal time with the elders, and equal time with my peers. And with the men, they would teach me the men's way. The women would teach me the women's way. The elders would tell me story after story after story from age 5 to age 13. Every weekend we would go out camping, and it was just rich. And then with my peers, of course, all my job was to play. So we played. And I don't remember a time when I was bored. And I could go to anybody's house day or night and be treated like the long lost son, you know. Ah, lakaya kaguda kakal, kaguchidwad. Come in, sit down, eat. That's the way I was greeted by everybody, and no matter whose household I went into, at any time, day or night. And every person that I would meet during the day would affirm me in some way. Every day. And I was never scolded. And how many people are raised where they've never been scolded? And I was never taught what I know. I was expected to watch, listen, and learn. And the adult's job was simply to create the space for a child to learn, but not tell him what to learn, how to learn, or define anything. So I grew up not asking a question at all. And it's ingenious because then, without the prescription of some adult before me, I could expand out to the maximum of my capability. And that's what I did. And so it was quite something.
How did your name come about when you got the name? Was it part of your initiation, or did you have it before then?
No, it was the Kuyach. The last Kuyach lived on the Aleutian chain. And before you die, you have to find your next kuyach. And so he searched and found that energetically St. Paul was where the next kuyach is. And then he found me.
Wow.
At 4 years old. That's when he gave me that name. And I'm going to be the last kuyach in our history. We've got thousands of years of history where this tradition was passed along to. And in this generation, I'm the last one. And the reason for that is that we either are going to die and become extinct as a species, as human beings, or the consciousness of people will change to the point that a kuyach is no longer needed. And there are many traditions that have similar kinds of things like I do, that also acknowledge that this is going to be the last generation. And this generation that exists today is either going to change their consciousness or we will become extinct. And it's going to happen in a very short period of time from here on out. We have so short a time that business as usual is not something that the elders that I work with, they're elders from all over the world. And they said that we must change our consciousness now, because human beings, it's not a question about whether or not Mother Earth is going to survive. She's survived for billions of years. She's going to survive for billions more. It's only a question about whether or not we human beings are going to survive. And it is going to be in this generation of people that will decide that. Yeah, we're launching, I called a meeting of elders from throughout the world to join us in Kauai in 2017 to answer two questions. One, what is the state of the world as we see it now? And two, what must we be doing now? And so as a result of that, we have created this thing called Wisdom Weavers of the World. And we have a website, www.wisdomweavers.world. And we're going to launch officially in about 3 weeks on a worldwide campaign, social media campaign, where we will feature a 13-minute film that to have some of the initial thoughts of the elders throughout the world, because they want their message to be carried to the world. And we've got 16 different languages that is going to be interpreted into through volunteers, thankfully, that we have in all these different countries. And they're going to interpret the film on the film itself, so it'll be subtitled.
Yeah.
And so the message is that we've got to change our consciousness now. The Yupik elders in Southwestern Alaska call this a reverse society, or the inside out society, because we reversed all the laws for living. And one of those laws used to be that the heart would tell the mind what to do. Now we are in a world where the mind tells the heart what to do. And very few can tell the difference about what it means to come from the heart as compared to coming from the mind. But that's one of the key reversals that has happened in this time that we have created. And it's a time we're doing what we call the masculine imbalance. This imbalance, it's like a pendulum that's swung back and forth since the beginning of time between masculine and feminine imbalance. And the last one is the masculine imbalance that began maybe 4,000 to 6,000 years ago, and we're still in it. And the elders are saying that this is time when we have the opportunity to stop this pendulum from swinging one way or the other into dead center, where the masculine and feminine are together as equals. And they're equal within ourselves and outside of ourselves. And so we have what we call the womb at the center of the universe. And that has a story of its own, because when I was 16 years old, I was lamenting about the fact that we couldn't make these incredible Unungan masks anymore, ceremonial masks and masks for various things. And so I decided to go see the oldest man in the village. His name was Agi Galektionov, who was 88 years old at the time, because his grandfather was the last shaman on the island. And the most powerful master, shaman. And so I told him about my lament, and he said, no, it's never been lost. You want to find it, go to the edge of the sea. And it's an island that's very small, like I said, 12 miles long and 5 miles wide. So we go to the edge of the sea, find a stick and a rock, and hit them together, and listen to the rhythm of the ocean and the animals, there's the birds, the seals, listen to the grass, just listen and bang a rhythm based on what you hear. And then get out of your head and set your intention and wait. Now, what he means is get out of your head literally means getting out of your head, because I could do that when I was 6 years old, learning that from the birds. And I wouldn't have a single word come through my head for hours. And I could still do that at age 16. So I did that, get out of the head. Set your intention. How do you set intention without your mind? Well, you do it through the body, where you embody the intention that you want. And wait means trust. Trust that the answer will be provided. And you must trust completely. If there's any ounce of you that distrusts and wonders whether or not this is real, you're not going to get it. And so I did that. And a couple hours after I was doing that, sitting out next to the sea, a black dot shows up in my mind's eye and widens, and out of it poured, must have been at least 100 different masks. All very different. And I'm not an artist. I draw stick people. And so I thought, well, maybe I'm imagining this, is this real? Yeah. And then I go to the old man again, and I told him what I experienced, and he says, you touch the womb at the center of the universe. This is where we get our original instructions from. This is where we get all new ideas from. And from that point, that worked its way to my life, where I now talk about the womb at the center of the universe. And the women were considered sacred at one time across the world. And we've forgotten why. And the reason why is that the identical field of energy that I tapped into when I was 16 exists in every single woman through the womb. And that nothing new is going to be created unless we have the container that is held by the women put on the outside energetically. And this will be a new container for something new to be birthed. Until that happens, nothing new is going to be birthed. And it's all energetic. And the way to do it is that women would get together in sisterhood, cleanse themselves of all the past traumas. And mind you, women can do it like in the snap of a finger if they do it in sisterhood. We men, we take 20, 30, 40, maybe even a lifetime to try to get rid of our traumas, right? Women can do it just like that. And then concentrate their energy, because we're energy beings, essentially. And that's really what's behind all of this physical stuff. We're energy beings, and we can, through our intention, place this energy within in you outside, and then a new container is created. Now, I tell people this and say, okay, you think something new is being created through the state-of-the-art thinking and state-of-the-art technologies. Let's examine that. And so hybrid cars, for example, it's supposed to be a good idea, right? But have the thought been given to what's going to happen to their batteries, which contains exotic minerals after their usefulness ends? Are we going to recycle it like we recycle computers? And the way we recycle them is we send them to poor countries, and the poor people take apart the pieces in the computer, poison themselves and Mother Earth at the same time. And how about hybrid fuels? Good idea, right? So the U.S. declares that hybrid fuel is going to be their policy. So what happened is that many of the farmers around the world converted to fuel-bearing crops instead of food-bearing crops. And that increased the price of food worldwide and increased starvation. That's just an example. And what it is something posing as new when it's regurgitation of the old.
The old consciousness trying to solve the problem.
Exactly. That's what Einstein said. You can't solve the problem with the same consciousness that created it.
Right.
Of course, that's logical.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like why they think they're creating anything new is beyond me. But anyway, they do. And so uh, something new will be created when women get together, heal themselves, and then focus that energy to create a container out of which something new is going to be birthed.
Mm.
And that's why originally women were considered sacred. Amongst my people, we were egalitarian, but the women were the ones that initiated the shamans, not
Mm.
the men. And we have a moon calendar, and we have all these things that are like the ikyak that we place, the skin boat that we have. I built one myself. It took 9 months.
Mm. Yeah.
And it was 17 feet long and 22 inches wide. And it took me 9 months to create that. And this ikyak is considered a second wife.
Mm.
And the men and women could have as many wives or husbands that they wanted, as long as they can provide for them, as long as they can provide, do their roles adequately. So, and the women were the ones that initiated the shaman. And amongst the Iroquois, the Haudenosaunee, our country is supposedly built on the framework of the Haudenosaunee.
Mm.
But they left out the so-called founding fathers, left out one thing, the feminine part.
Mm.
And the feminine part is that the women were the ones that chose the chiefs. And of course, they're men, so they create this. And you think about what women, we have just not even understood what gifts the women have. There was a woman doctor one time that decided that all the studies about the men's, what do you call that, semen?
Mm-hmm.
That the function of the uterus was to flush out stuff so that it's new again, so it can take more semen.
Mm.
Well, then the first woman doctor decides to explore that and found out that no, it's not why they do that.
Yeah.
It's because the men contain so many germs that the insides need to clean themselves out. Yeah, and now that's understood worldwide, but still not talked about very much. But it is a true story.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you say that, because part of what you're talking about in women's role in transforming consciousness is also a purification. Is purifying, whatever traumas that we have gone through, meaning letting them go, which helps purify consciousness of mankind, and then being that vehicle for creation, for the safe place, for creation to be born again.
Yep, and women, genetically and physically and biologically, you inherit the past traumas of thousands of years downloaded by your mother into you as a fetus.
Mm.
And we call it genetic memory, but it's really true. Mm. And then you are born as a woman or a female, and so you suffer in your life experiences the imbalances in the male system. And then you have the collective consciousness that you're tied into, which is around the entire world, that is the traumas of women for generations. Yeah. And so there's a lot that women have that they need to process, go through, and let them pass out of your body. And so and it's only the women that are going to do this. The men don't have a clue about this. Women, I mean, intuitively, instinctively, or whatever way, you resonate with what I'm saying is because I'm telling you something you already know.
Yeah.
I'm just reminding you of what it is. And so this cleansing, the elders are saying we've got to get to it now.
Yes.
We no longer have the luxury of time.
Mm. Mm. Is there a vision from the elders about if the choice is made that consciousness is going to change, anything past that point, or just that message that we need to change consciousness?
No one knows what the new world is going to look like. But we do know that to have a world that is engulfed in love, we need to change this consciousness. And they're saying that the world is now focused on, climate crisis, social injustices, political corruption, wars, good people focused on stopping suicides, murders, and the refugees, and they're all good people of good heart that are focused on stopping what was created by this imbalance. And they're saying that that what we choose to focus on becomes our reality, and that if we mentally, physically, and spiritually choose to work on stopping something, we're going to pour the energy into the something we're trying to stop, and it'll become bigger.
Right.
And that what they're saying is that we need to focus on what the world we want to see. In the meantime, they said, yeah, there are things that are happening that your heart will tell you must step in, but don't pour your mental, physical, spiritual energies into reaction to that. That if you do that, you will perpetuate this cycle of masculine imbalance.
Right.
And so to do this is something that requires courage, real courage. Because as the Hopi and Maori said, let go of the sides of the riverbank, move to the center, find those who have done the same and celebrate. What they mean is letting go of the sides of the riverbank means letting go of all human attachments. And I mean all. Move to the center means move to your proverbial center, your heart center.
Yeah.
And the center of the river of life, because the river knows where it's going and we don't. And find those who have done the same mean find those who have had the courage to jump like you did. Now, when I did it like over 35 years ago, I was at the peak of patriarchy. I was Commissioner of Commerce and Economic Development for the state of Alaska. There was a cabinet post. I was vice chair of a $3 billion company. I was the head of some 17 boards and councils. And I gave it all up in one day. All of it.
Wow.
Because I have the inspiration of my people that know that the only place to be is in your heart, and your heart telling your mind what to do, and in the present moment.
Yeah.
And so I didn't know what I was going to do, where I was going to go, whether or not I was going to have any money. I didn't know anything about it.
Yeah.
About what was going to happen. But then that's when the magic started to happen. And every year since then, I've been an independent consultant, and I've always been given enough money that I need to survive. And while I'm doing this work, which the elders are saying this is the work that we need to do. And so the rewards come from that. But can you have the courage to go to a place where you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow? You don't know if you're going to survive. You don't know, and you don't know what you're going to do. You don't know where you're going to live.
Mm.
Most people will think you've gone crazy to go to that level. But that is what the elders are saying we've got to do now.
Right. And not just one of us, but all of us.
Yes. And, you know, each one of us, the elders are saying, each one of us are here now for a specific purpose. And that purpose can only be revealed from your heart.
Mm.
And that this, what it is your gift to the world during this time. And the only way you can access it is to go to your heart. And it may tell you to do something that you never thought about doing at all, but
Mm.
it's following your passion.
Mm.
And that's what we are encouraging people to do. Is follow your passion, follow your heart, drop everything else, because business as usual is not making it anymore. And all the things that we used to work don't work anymore.
Mm. Yes. Oh, well, I think that's a very good place to end. And I'm just filled with this profound message. And I hope everybody who's watching is really taking this in and saturating yourself in it. And hope you'll watch it more than once. Okay. Thank you so much, Ilarion Merculieff.
Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity to talk with all of your wonderful viewers.
Thanks everybody for watching.